2 months after the destruction of the Dawnbreaker, Captain Elena Rodriguez received an unusual job offer. The Galactic Trade Commission wanted her to deliver emergency supplies to a Velthari colony world that had been badly damaged by a solar storm. Her cargo ship, the Prosperity, would carry medical supplies, food makers, and emergency shelter equipment. What made this delivery strange was not the destination, but the route. The fastest path to the Velthari colony led directly along the edge of human space. The Trade Commission had specifically asked her to broadcast her humanitarian mission on all radio channels as she traveled. Elena was an experienced cargo captain who had been flying between stars for 20 years. She had heard all the stories about human space and the ships that disappeared there. Like most traders, she had always been careful to stay far away from the forbidden zone. As the Prosperity approached the border of human space, Elena was surprised to receive an answer to her broadcasts. A calm human voice spoke over her communication system. "Merchant Vessel Prosperity, this is Earth Defense Station Omega-3. We have reviewed your humanitarian cargo manifest and mission parameters. You are authorized to use the following route, through human space to reduce your travel time." The message included detailed navigation coordinates that would cut 3 full days off her journey. Elena stared at the data in amazement. Not only were the humans allowing her to pass through their forbidden territory, they were actively helping her save time on a mercy mission. "Acknowledged, Earth Defense," she replied. "Thank you for the assistance." "Safe travels, Captain Rodriguez. Your humanitarian efforts are appreciated." As the Prosperity entered human space, Elena felt nervous but also curious. For 3 centuries, no civilian had seen what lay beyond the human borders. She was about to become the first outsider to witness what the mysterious humans had built in their isolation. What she saw amazed her. The systems were clearly heavily defended, with the same kind of small platforms she had heard about in the stories of destroyed ships. But she could also see signs of a thriving civilization that was far more advanced than anything in the galaxy. Space stations floated near several planets, clearly designed for trade and diplomacy, though they were currently inactive. Agricultural. Platforms that could feed billions of people orbited garden worlds. Research facilities the size of small moons suggested technological advancement far beyond what anyone had imagined. Most importantly, Elena never felt threatened during her passage. Her ship was clearly being monitored by sensors she could not detect, but the monitoring felt protective rather than hostile. It was as if the humans were making sure she traveled safely through their territory. Every few hours she received updates from human traffic control, guiding her along the safest and fastest route to her destination. The voices were always polite and helpful. Nothing like the cold warriors she had expected. "Prosperity. This is Station Control. Please adjust your course 2 degrees to avoid a solar storm in the next system. New coordinates are being transmitted now." "Prosperity. You are approaching a busy shipping lane used by our cargo vessels. Please maintain current speed and heading. You will have clear passage in 15 minutes. "Prosperity. Our medical stations have reviewed your cargo manifest. We are transmitting additional medical supplies for the disaster victims. No payment is required." Elena watched in wonder as a small human cargo pod docked with her ship. Inside were advanced medical devices and medicines that could save hundreds of lives. The humans were not only allowing her passage, they were contributing to her humanitarian mission. When she emerged from human space and continued toward the Velthari colony, Elena found herself with a story that would spread throughout the galaxies: merchant networks. The mysterious humans were not the hostile isolationists that many had assumed. They were a powerful civilization that simply wanted to be left alone, but were willing to help those who approached them with peaceful intentions. High Commander Yethvar of the Velthari received the medical supplies with gratitude, but he was more interested in Elena's account of her passage through human space. Her description of advanced but peaceful installations, combined with the complete destruction of the Dawnbreaker, painted a picture of a species that possessed both tremendous power and remarkable self-control. They could have conquered the entire galaxy by now, Elena told him. I saw enough firepower to destroy 1,000 fleets, but they use it only to protect their own territory. They helped me save lives instead of threatening me. The High Commander's report to the Galactic Council would become part of the official record. The humans are not to be feared because they are aggressive, but because they are so powerful that they can afford to be patient. They have built defenses that can destroy any force we might send against them, yet they use that power only to protect what is theirs. They are willing to help those who approach them peacefully, but they are completely ruthless toward those who threaten them. In the years that followed, the story of the Dawnbreaker's destruction and the Prosperity's safe passage became legend throughout the galaxy. Young officers in dozens of different military academies studied the tactical recordings that the humans had shared, trying to understand how such devastating firepower could be deployed so precisely. Diplomats debated the implications of a species that could destroy entire fleets but chose instead to help with humanitarian missions. Scientists wrote papers about the nature of power and restraint, using humanity as the perfect example of a civilization that had achieved true strength through the wisdom to use it carefully. But for most of the galaxy's people, the lesson was simple and clear. Respect human boundaries, and they would leave you alone. Violate those boundaries and face complete destruction. It was an agreement that nearly everyone found acceptable. Trade routes were adjusted to avoid human space, but merchant captains knew they could request passage for humanitarian missions. Diplomatic channels remained open for those who needed to communicate with Earth. The humans proved to be reliable neighbors who kept their promises and respected the sovereignty of others. Several species even began copying human defensive strategies, building their own networks of hidden platforms to protect their borders. But none achieved the perfect balance of overwhelming power and careful restraint that made human space truly inviolate. And in the depths of space, the thousands of defense platforms that formed humanity's protective grid continued their silent watch. They had proven their effectiveness once again, and they were ready to defend their creator's chosen isolation for as long as necessary. The galaxy had learned its lesson. No one dared enter human space uninvited anymore. The price of curiosity had proven far too high, and the reward for respect had proven worth the effort. Humanity had found peace through strength, and they maintained that peace through constant vigilance and the wisdom to help those who deserved help. Admiral Patricia Wells stood in the command center of Earth Defense Headquarters, watching the big screen that showed the battle in the outer system. The alien ship had just exploded in a bright flash of light, and the defense platforms were already powering down and returning to their hidden state. Confirmed complete destruction, reported Colonel Ryan Hayes from his station. No escape pods, no survivors, no intact technology remaining. Our cleanup drones are collecting all debris. Admiral Wells nodded with a heavy heart. It had been 127 years since the last time an alien ship had tried to enter human space. She had hoped that the galaxy had finally learned to respect human boundaries. Apparently, the lesson needed to be taught again. Colonel Hayes, open a communication channel to the Velthari High Command. Use the standard protocol. Yes, ma'am, Hayes replied, activating the long-range communication system. Within minutes, the main screen showed the image of High Commander Yethvar of the Velthari fleet. He was a large reptilian creature with green scales and angry yellow eyes. "Admiral Wells," he began, his words translated into English by the communication system. "We have lost contact with one of our ships. Our last message from them said they were investigating mineral resources in unclaimed space near your territory." Wells kept her face calm as she replied. "High Commander, the ship you are talking about was the heavy cruiser Dawnbreaker commanded by Captain Zethkar. It violated human territorial boundaries yesterday at 14:32 Standard Time and was destroyed according to our defensive protocols." The alien commander's eyes grew wide with shock. "You destroyed an entire ship and crew for crossing a border? This is an act of war." "No," Wells replied in a steady voice. "This is the same response we have given to every unauthorized entry into human space for the past 3 centuries. Your ship ignored 17 different warning broadcasts in your own language, continued into our territory, and conducted military spying on our defensive positions. The destruction of your ship was legal under interstellar law and was inevitable." High Commander Yethvar leaned forward angrily. "The Velthari will not accept this aggression. We demand payment for our losses and an immediate explanation of your defensive capabilities." Admiral Wells allowed herself a small smile. "High Commander, let me make something very clear. 300 years ago, when humanity first made contact with the galactic community, we made a simple request. Leave us alone, and we will live together in peace. Since then, 47 different species have tried to violate our territorial boundaries. None of their ships or crews have ever returned home." She paused to let that information sink in before continuing. "We have never attacked anyone outside our territory. We have never threatened any species that respects our boundaries. We have even sent aid to several worlds during natural disasters. But we have also never allowed anyone to violate our sovereignty and survive to tell others about our capabilities." The Velthari commander's anger was slowly being replaced by fear. "You claim to have destroyed ships from 47 different species. That is impossible. Some of those would have been major warships." "Indeed they were," Wells confirmed. "The Korthak sent a full battle squadron of 20 ships. The Zephyrians sent their most advanced stealth destroyer. The Hegemony sent a dreadnought with shields that could stop planet-killer weapons. All were destroyed completely, with no survivors. The wreckage was processed and recycled into our defensive network." She gestured to Colonel Hayes, who began sending data files to the Velthari command ship. "We are now transmitting the complete specifications of your destroyed vessel, including crew lists, weapon loadouts, and tactical capabilities. We are also providing sensor recordings of the destruction. You are free to share this information with anyone you choose." High Commander Yethvar stared at the incoming data with disbelief. The level of detail was extraordinary, showing that the humans had been monitoring his ship from the moment it approached their territory. "Why are you giving us this information?" he asked. "Because, High Commander, we want the galaxy to understand a simple truth. Human space is forbidden territory. We do not seek conquest. We do not want your worlds or your resources, and we do not wish to interfere in galactic politics. We simply want to be left alone. But anyone who violates our territory will be destroyed, completely and without exception." Wells's expression grew more serious. You have a choice now. You can accept the loss of the Dawnbreaker as the price of testing our resolve, or you can escalate this into a larger conflict. I should warn you that if you choose war, you will discover that our defensive capabilities extend far beyond simple border protection. The Velthari commander was silent for a long moment, clearly thinking about his options. Finally, he spoke. What promise do we have that humanity will not use these capabilities to attack others? The same promise the galaxy has had for 3 centuries, Wells replied. We have never attacked anyone who did not attack us first. We have never expanded beyond our original territorial claims. We have never demanded tribute or submission from any species. We simply defend what is ours with absolute determination. Admiral Wells leaned forward slightly. High Commander, our defensive systems are designed to protect, not to conquer. Every weapon platform you saw destroying your ship is positioned to defend human territory. None of them can be moved to attack others. We built them to keep invaders out, not to project power beyond our borders, she continued. But make no mistake about our resolve. We have had 300 years to perfect our defenses. We have studied every military technology used by every species in the galaxy. We know the capabilities of every major fleet and every advanced weapon system. And we have built defenses that can stop all of them. High Commander Yethvar seemed to shrink back in his chair. What if someone needs to pass through human space for humanitarian reasons? What if there is an emergency? Contact us and ask permission, Wells replied simply. We are not monsters, High Commander. We have allowed passage for medical emergencies, refugee evacuations, and disaster relief missions. But they asked first, they identified themselves clearly, and they followed our guidance while in our territory. The alien commander nodded slowly. I understand, but my government will want to know. How do we explain this to our people? How do we justify the loss of the Dawnbreaker? Admiral Wells concluded the conversation with words that would be repeated throughout the galaxy for generations. Hi, Commander, please give this message to the Galactic Council and to any species that might be thinking about testing our resolve. Human space is forbidden to all who do not have clear permission to enter. This is not a request. It is not a negotiation, and it is not subject to change. Violate our boundaries, and you will be destroyed. Respect them, and we will coexist in peace. The communication ended, leaving Admiral Wells alone with her thoughts. She did not enjoy destroying ships and killing crews, but she understood the necessity. Human space remained safe because the galaxy knew the price of violation was always death. In the depths of space, the defense platforms returned to their silent watch, ready to protect humanity's chosen isolation for as long as necessary. Captain Zethkar felt more worried with each passing hour. His ship had been traveling through human space for 6 hours now, and the strange metal objects were everywhere. What had first looked like harmless debris was starting to seem much more dangerous. Captain, Science Officer Vexitai called out, his voice shaking slightly. These objects are not as dead as we first thought. I am detecting small energy changes in their systems. It is like they are waking up and watching us. That cannot be possible, Zethkar replied, though he was starting to doubt his own words. Objects that small could not contain the power needed for active sensors. Navigator Thais looked up from her station with fear in her eyes. Sir, I have been mapping the positions of these objects through all the systems we have passed. They form a perfect 3-dimensional grid with mathematical precision. This is not natural debris. This is a constructed defense network. Before the captain could respond, loud alarms began wailing throughout the ship. Warning lights flashed. Red as Tactical Officer Krexdan jumped to his control panel. "Captain! The objects are powering up, all of them. I am reading massive energy spikes from thousands of contacts throughout this system." On the main viewing screen, what had looked like dead pieces of metal suddenly blazed with light and energy. Each small platform revealed itself to be a sophisticated weapon system, and there were thousands of them surrounding the Dawnbreaker in every direction. "Raise shields! Power all weapons!" Zethkar commanded. But even as he gave the order, he understood how hopeless their situation had become. They were surrounded by a defense network that had been lying in wait, and they had flown directly into its center. Communications Officer Yalseth suddenly sat up straight at her station. "Captain, incoming message from the humans. They are broadcasting directly to our command channel." "Put it on the speakers," Zethkar ordered. A calm human voice filled the bridge, speaking in perfect Velthari language. "Attention! Velthari vessel Dawnbreaker. You have violated the territorial boundaries of human space despite repeated warnings. You have exactly 60 seconds to power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded, or you will be destroyed. This is your only warning." Captain Zethkar's mouth fell open in shock. The humans knew his ship's name, they knew his species, and they were speaking his language perfectly. How long had they been watching his ship? "Sir," whispered Tactical Officer Krexdan, "I am reading weapons locks from over 3,000 platforms. Their targeting systems are more advanced than anything in our military databases." The captain's mind raced as he tried to think of options. He could surrender and face the shame of capture, or he could fight against impossible odds. The Velthari were a proud warrior people, and surrender was not something they did easily. Around him, his bridge crew waited for orders. Some looked terrified, others angry, but all of them looked to him for leadership. Whatever he decided in the next few seconds would determine whether they lived or died. "All weapons, return fire. Target the nearest defense platforms," he finally commanded. The Dawnbreaker's plasma cannons opened fire, sending bright bolts of energy toward the surrounding platforms. Several platforms exploded in brilliant flashes of light, but for everyone they destroyed, 10 more seemed to take its place. The human response was immediate and terrible. Space around the Dawnbreaker erupted in a storm of energy as thousands of weapon platforms opened fire at the same time. The alien ship's shields, which were designed to protect against entire battle fleets, began failing within seconds. "Shields down to 40%, shouted Krexdan over the sound of alarms and groaning metal. "Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12. We cannot take much more of this." The ship shook violently as human weapons tore through its armor plating. Zethkar grabbed onto his command chair to keep from falling as explosions rocked the vessel from bow to stern. "Engineering reports massive power failures," called out another officer. "Life support systems are failing on the lower decks." "Captain," Zethkar watched his ship being systematically destroyed by an enemy that had been invisible just minutes before. The humans had not just defended their space. They had created a trap so perfect that his experienced crew had walked into it completely. Blind, smoke filled the bridge as control panels exploded and sparked. The smell of burning circuits and melting metal made it hard to breathe. Through the chaos, Zethkar could hear his crew calling out damage reports that grew worse with each passing second. "All stop!" he finally shouted. "Cease fire! Broadcast! Surrender on all frequencies!" Communications Officer Yalseth began transmitting their surrender, but as she worked, Zethkar noticed with growing horror that the human weapons platforms were not stopping their attack. If anything, the intensity of fire was increasing. The calm human voice returned over their communications system. "Surrender is not an option. No one leaves human space with intelligence about our defenses. You were warned." Zethkar realized with shock that the humans were not interested in capturing his ship or crew. They intended to destroy the Dawnbreaker completely, leaving no survivors, to report back about what they had seen. "Captain," screamed Navigator Thuss, "main reactor is critical. We have maybe 2 minutes before it explodes." The bridge lights flickered and went out, leaving only the red glow of emergency power. Around him, Zethkar could hear his crew calling out to each other in the darkness, trying to save their ship and their lives. But it was too late. The human weapons had done too much damage too quickly. The Dawnbreaker was dying, and there was nothing he could do to save it. As his ship began its final death spiral, Captain Zethkar understood why no alien vessel had ever returned from human space. The humans had not built simple border defenses. They had created a perfect killing machine that could destroy any intruder while remaining completely hidden until the moment of attack. His last thought before the reactor exploded was a warning. He wished he could send to his people, "Never enter human space." The price was always death, and the humans never showed mercy to those who violated their borders. The Dawnbreaker vanished in a brilliant flash of light, leaving only scattered debris, and the silent watchers that had destroyed it. Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison sat in a chair deep inside an asteroid at the edge of human space. His coffee had grown cold hours ago, but he did not notice. For 15 years, he had worked at Defense Station Omega-7, watching computer screens that showed the empty space around their territory. The defense station was built inside a large rock that floated between 2 stars. From the outside, it looked like any other asteroid, but inside, it was filled with the most advanced computers and weapons control systems that humans had ever built. Jake and his team of 12 officers were responsible for protecting an entire section of the human border. "Contact!" shouted sensor operator Lisa Park from across the room. "We have an alien ship crossing the outer warning line. It is big, probably a heavy warship." Jake put down his coffee mug and walked quickly to the main display screen. A red dot showed the position of the intruding vessel as it moved slowly through their outer defense zone. The ship was trying to hide itself, but human sensors could track anything that moved through space. "What kind of ship is it?" Jake asked. "Computer analysis says it is probably Velthari design," Lisa replied. "Length about 800 meters, probably carrying 40 to 50 crew members." Jake nodded. The Velthari were known throughout the galaxy as brave explorers, but they were also proud warriors who did not like being told what to do. It had been over 100 years since anyone had tried to enter human space, and Jake had hoped he would never have to use the weapons under his command. "Where are they heading?" he asked. "Toward the mining colonies in the inner systems," reported defense operator Amy Chen from her station. "They are moving slowly and scanning everything around them." Jake walked over to communications officer Steve Davis. "Are they responding to our warning messages?" "No, sir," Steve replied. "They are completely ignoring all broadcasts. The ship is conducting active scans of our defense positions." Jake felt a cold feeling in his stomach. Active scanning meant the aliens were studying human defenses, trying to learn how their systems worked. This was not just a border violation. This was military spying. He walked back to the center of the room and looked at the tactical display. Throughout the star system, thousands of small dots showed the positions of human defense platforms. To alien sensors, these platforms looked like harmless pieces of metal floating in space, but Jake knew their true power. Each platform was actually a sophisticated weapons system capable of destroying ships much larger than the intruding vessel. They had been built using technology that was centuries ahead of anything used by other galactic races. The platforms could remain completely silent for years, then power up and fire within seconds when needed. "Amy, what is the status of our defense grid?" Jake asked. "All platforms are responding to the intrusion," Amy replied, her fingers moving quickly over her control panel. "The system is automatically powering up. Estimated time to full readiness is 3 minutes. Jake opened a secure communication channel to Earth. "Earth Defense Command, this is Station Omega 7. We have a Code Red situation. One alien warship has crossed our border and is conducting military reconnaissance, requesting permission for full defensive response." The reply came back immediately. "Omega 7, this is Admiral Patricia Wells. You have permission to eliminate the threat. Follow Protocol 7. Leave no survivors." Jake felt his heart beat faster. Protocol 7 was the most serious response humans had. It meant complete destruction of the intruding force with no chance for escape or surrender. It was harsh, but it had kept human space safe for 3 centuries. "You heard the Admiral," Jake told his team. "Amy, bring all defense platforms to full power. Steve, monitor all communication channels in case they try to call for help. Lisa, maintain constant tracking on that ship. I want to know if they launch any escape pods or send any messages." Around the control room, Jake's officers began preparing for something they had trained for, but never done. Amy's hands flew over her weapons control panel as she activated thousands of hidden platforms throughout the star system. Each platform began extending weapon barrels and charging energy cells that had been dormant for decades. "Grid activation at 60%, Amy reported. "All platforms are getting targeting locks on the intruder." On the main screen, Jake could see the alien ship continuing its journey deeper into human space. The crew of that ship had no idea that thousands of weapons were now pointing at them from every direction. They thought they were conducting a secret spy mission, but they had actually flown into the most sophisticated trap ever built. "Platform activation at 80%, Amy announced. "Energy readings are climbing toward maximum." Jake felt sorry for the aliens aboard that ship. They were probably good people following orders from their leaders, but they had made a terrible choice by entering human space. For 300 years, humans had sent the same message to the galaxy: stay away or be destroyed. These aliens had chosen not to listen. "Full activation achieved," Amy reported. "All platforms are ready to fire on your command." Jake looked at the tactical display one more time. The alien ship was now completely surrounded by active weapons platforms. There was no escape route and no possibility of survival if the platforms opened fire. He opened a communication channel to the intruding vessel. "Attention, alien warship. You have violated human territorial boundaries. You have exactly 60 seconds to power down all weapons and prepare to be captured. If you do not comply, you will be destroyed. This is your only warning." Jake waited for a response, hoping the aliens would surrender and end this peacefully. But deep down, he knew what would happen next. In 3 centuries, no alien ship had ever surrendered when caught inside human space. They always chose to fight, and they always lost. The red dot on his screen continued moving toward the human colonies, ignoring his warning completely. Jake counted down the seconds until he would have to give the order that would destroy an entire ship and everyone aboard it. 59 seconds, 58, 57. The alien ship was about to learn why no one entered human space without permission. Captain Zethkar stood on the bridge of his warship and looked at the large screen in front of him. The screen showed a map of space with bright red lines marking a border. Beyond those lines lay a region that no alien ship had entered for 300 years. The area was known throughout the galaxy as the Human Zone. The captain was a tall creature with green, scaly skin and yellow eyes. He belonged to a race called the Velthari, who were known as great explorers and traders. His ship, the Dawnbreaker, was one of the most powerful vessels in their fleet. It carried 47 crew members and enough weapons to destroy a small moon. But today, Captain Zethkar felt nervous. His leaders had given him a mission that no one wanted. He had to cross into human space and find out what secrets the humans were hiding. His people needed rare metals that could only be found in human territory, and their scientists believed the humans had grown weak after so many years of hiding. "Sir," called Navigator Theiss from her control station, "we are getting close to the human border. Their warning signals are playing on all radio channels." The captain nodded and walked over to look at her screen. Dozens of metal objects floated in space near the border. Each one was sending out the same message in many different languages. "Warning, you are approaching human space. Turn back now. Entry without permission is forbidden." Zethkar had studied the history of human contact with the galaxy. 200 years ago, humans had appeared at the edge of known space with a small group of ships. They had sent a simple message to the Galactic Council. "We are humans from Earth. We want peace with all races, but we also want to be left alone. Anyone who enters our space without asking will face our defenses." The Council had laughed at these newcomers. How could a young race that had just learned to travel between stars dare to make demands? They sent 3 different exploration fleets to study the humans and their weapons. None of those fleets ever came back. The first fleet had 20 ships and was led by the proud Korthax Empire. They crossed into human space and simply vanished. No distress calls, no wreckage, no trace of what happened to them. The second fleet was smaller but carried the most advanced sensors the galaxy had ever built. They also disappeared without sending a single message back home. The third fleet was different. The Council sent their best diplomats along with the ships, hoping to talk to the humans and avoid conflict. But they too vanished the moment they crossed the border into human territory. After losing 3 fleets, the humans sent another message. "We warned you to stay away. We will keep defending our home. Mark our borders on your maps and respect them. If you do this, we can live in peace." The Galactic Council had no choice but to agree. They marked human space as a forbidden zone and made it illegal for any ship to enter without special permission. For 3 centuries, every alien race had followed this rule. The humans kept to themselves and never bothered anyone else. But now, Captain Zethkar's people were facing a crisis. Their home worlds were running out of the special metals needed to power their cities and ships. Long-range scans had found huge amounts of these metals in the outer systems of human space. The Velthari High Command believed that after 300 years, the humans might have become careless about guarding their borders. "What do our sensors show?" Zethkar asked his science officer. Vexatai looked up from his instruments with confusion on his face. "Sir, I am reading thousands of small metal objects throughout this system. They are not moving or sending out energy signals, but they are placed in perfect patterns like someone put them there on purpose." The captain frowned. "Are they weapons?" "I cannot tell, sir. They look like pieces of old metal floating in space, but their positions are too organized to be random. Debris." Zethkar made his decision. His people were counting on him to bring back information about human defenses. If he turned back now without learning anything, the mission would be a failure. "Continue forward," he ordered. "Keep our ship hidden and scan everything we see. We need to know what we are dealing with." As the Dawnbreaker crossed the border into human space, the crew held their breath. For several minutes, nothing happened. The ship moved slowly through the darkness between stars, its sensors recording everything around them. The human warning beacons fell silent behind them. Ahead lay empty space filled with those mysterious metal objects. The objects seemed dead and harmless, but something about them made the captain feel uneasy. "Sir," Navigator Thies called out, "I am plotting the positions of these objects on our star charts. They form a perfect grid pattern covering the entire system. This is not natural." Science Officer Vextai added, "Captain, the objects appear to be made of materials I do not recognize. They are not using any known technology from our databases." Zethkar studied the readings on his screen. Whatever these objects were, they had been placed here by intelligence, not chance. The humans had built something in their space, but what was its purpose? "Take us deeper into the system," he commanded. "We need more information before we can report back to command." The Dawnbreaker continued its journey into human territory, unaware that it had already triggered alarms throughout the human defense network. Every step they took was being watched and recorded by sensors more advanced than anything in the galactic database. In hidden control rooms scattered across human space, defense officers were powering up weapons that had waited 3 centuries for another chance to protect their people's privacy. The aliens had made their choice, and soon they would learn why no one dared to enter human space uninvited.